right. So, what we're going to do here for The Force Awakens, Luke and I watched this about 2 weeks ago. Let's see if Lola will give me a minute to get my notes up before she immediately gets up and protests. All right, we're clawing. we're swinging out. Here we go. All right.
She's up.
No, not going to happen. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the 3 things that I liked and the 3 things that I hated about The Force Awakens.
Okay.
And you're gonna kind of piggyback off of that.
Okay.
We'll go one for one. Okay. So first thing I liked about The Force Awakens, the special effects and the Star Wars vibe. I thought they nailed that. The combination of special effects with like what do you call it? Like actual. What's the phrase you always use to describe like George Lucas's like where it's like real animatronics? Where like
they just like use like real substances
tactile,
in there. Yeah, like for example, like a droid shows up. It's not animated. It's actually a droid that someone's fit into, and the inside of the droid costume is probably like 130 degrees in there, and they're in the middle of the desert walking around. Like
exactly.
That's Star Wars to me, you know, or like. It almost comes off as cheesy sometimes, but it looks so good on screen because you can tell it's there. You can tell it's real, you know, like Rogue One when they used, or at least I think they did, where they used like model Star Destroyers like floating through a dark room. Like,
literally
so
in the
cool.
old industrial light and sound or whatever the heck it was called, like in their old facilities, that kind of vibe.
Yeah,
dude,
so I'd agree.
So cool.
I think they do capture the Star Wars vibe well in the first Force Awakens.
And it's clear that the people that were in
sequel.
charge of that were real Star Wars fans. That is for
True.
sure.
Agreed.
Okay, so first dislike. It's kind of comical how much The Force Awakens is a straight ripoff of A New Hope. Okay,
and it really jumps into that. Like it's kind of like that, but then it really buys in
almost immediately. So we have our desert planet that we start off on, Jakku as opposed to Tatooine. We have a cantina scene with Maz Kanata. We have the First Order, which is literally like a ripoff of the Empire. Even instead of it being the Republic versus the First Order, they couldn't just lean into it being the Republic. They wanted it to be like a band of rebels, and so they had the Resistance, which is effectively has the meager, you know, like small freedom fighter band vibe that the rebels had. There's the giant planet killing weapon, which Luke and I did a TikTok about the other day. There's trench warfare. There's the narrow escape right before the super weapon destroys the resistance space. Like all of this, because remember they end up tracking the scout back. It was like
the way that the super weapon was destroyed.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
one or two of those little things would have been fine, but it was so over the top, like obvious it just felt, and immediately that sends off the tone like we did this for money, not for the love of the show.
Yeah, I hear you. What else do you have for me? All right.
Second positive. Ben Solo and Rey. The concept of the young, talented Jedi who struggles with controlling his anger and eventually turns to the dark side, and the young Force user who's kind of a lost soul who ends up being that is a concept that you can copy. And it always feels fresh.
Right.
It was the Ben-Rey dynamic was the best part of the entire trilogy.
Mixed with a little bit of Vader and Ben wanting to be like him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally agree. One of the things that you and I have always focused on and given praise about for the sequel movies is the characters. Like all the characters for the most part are pretty awesome. Especially Snoke. I really like Snoke, and he was just such a waste.
It's too bad he's just a puppet.
Yeah.
Okay, second negative, the lack of plausibility. There are some massive, like funky plot holes. So, first of all, we learn in the second Throne book again, which is something that is kind of obvious. They can't break into the Naboo ship without using a code, to get in. And the ship is essentially blocked off from everybody unless that code is put in, which makes some sense. I mean, our Ford F-150s have codes on the side that you can put in to get in, and we're not a long time ago in a galaxy far away.
And they just hop into the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, they just hop into the Millennium Falcon and take it. Okay,
dude, I know.
Then they're just drifting in the space above Jakku, like presumably on autopilot into deep space. At which point Han Solo just discovers them.
Just in a whale of a ship.
Yes.
And just eats them.
Yes, in a whale of a ship, and it doesn't make any sense because he's like, oh, Onkar Plot had it. Oh, I told you we should have double checked the Western Reaches. It's like, dude, you're there. That's where you found it.
Well, and not
they
only
didn't
that,
jump to light speed. They're floating in space.
And then 2 other, like, I don't know if they're pirate groups or smuggler groups, end up on the ship, and it's just like that. Just mess of a scene with what are they called?
The Rathars.
The Rathars.
Yeah.
And it's just a mess of a scene. And we know that when boarding parties happen, and when a ship is essentially forcing itself onto another ship, there's some trauma that happens.
Yeah, they
probably
bump
to both
into
ships.
each other. Yeah.
Especially the ship that's being boarded. And all of a sudden, there's just like multiple groups of people just on this ship, just ready to.
Just the scene from Anchorman with all of the news meeting in the alleyway, but like literally Star Wars.
Yeah, touching of the hair face.
Not plausible.
Yeah.
Okay, second, last thing I really liked, the Ben Solo or the Ben Solo Han Solo confrontation at the end, following up with the frequent concept of dark Jedi or Jedi who turn to the dark side, where they cope with their issue by repeatedly referring to their former selves as dead. This I love this concept because it's in the Thrawn book a lot. Anakin or Darth Vader keeps referring to quote unquote the Jedi.
Yeah.
These are the Jedi's memories. Like this is what the Jedi used to do.
Right.
That like he it's almost like a personality disassociation
Exactly. I was just
as
about
a
to say that.
coping mechanism.
It's another way to dissociate himself with Anakin.
And you could see Ben Solo in that moment staring into his dad's face like, your son is dead. He was weak. I killed him. He was weak like his father or whatever he says. Like, and you could see like it's like in his eyes, it's like he's just forcing this concept that he knows is complete bullshit, but it's the only way he can proceed along his current path.
Well, and so the acting in that scene was incredible. Oh my gosh, it was so incredible because I was legitimately shocked when Kylo Ren's lightsaber just ends up on the other side of Han Solo
and just kills
him. Yeah, and that was super intense. Like it was almost like they didn't even tell Adam Driver like what the end was going to be, and like he did such a good job of just showing that internal conflict where you could almost like, if his emotions were like a needle that was either like kill my dad or not kill my dad, like I just feel like the needle was just going back and forth like over and over and over again, and finally he was like, oh, I'm going to kill my dad, which was tragic. But yeah, they did such a good job with that scene.
Well, he literally says, I know what I have to do, but I'm not sure if I have the strength to do it.
Yeah.
And dude, Adam Driver is just a freaking star, man.
Yeah.
Just a freaking star. If you've seen him in any other movies, you know what I'm talking about. He's a star. Okay, the last thing that I really disliked, and for the record, Luke and I could probably spend a solid half hour nitpicking every single little thing.
You guys don't want to watch that.
But the last major concept that I had to go after.
And it gets worse as the movies go on.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, just wait till Well, the Last Jedi, I'm going to have more positive than you, I think. But
I'm sure you will.
We'll see. Rey becoming more powerful by herself, just navigating through Starkiller Base. So she learns how to do a Jedi mind trick. And it becomes clear, and to the point where Kylo Ren specifically mentions it, but he's like, with each passing moment, she's becoming more powerful, and it just is it's a very frequent thing in the sequel trilogy because it kind of happens with Ben Solo too, like reading people's minds and doing this stuff that you would think only the most powerful Sith in the world would be able to do, but like literally. The reckless nature with which they approached the Force in this sequel trilogy is just awful. And,
I agree.
And it bothers me a lot.
Well, and that's also highlighted. So in the opening scene, we meet, or part of the opening scene, we meet Kylo Ren for the first time. And he's this cool looking, dark, masked figure. One of the first things that we see him do is legitimately catch a laser bolt as it's flying through the air, and not only catch it and like divert it, it's literally suspended for probably 4 or 5 minutes, I don't know how long, as he's communicating and talking with other people, and then he just lets it go and it just finishes its trajectory. The amount of Force use that had to occur for that to happen would be incredible. And then that's almost like the most powerful thing that he does the entire movie, or even the entire trilogy. Like that is like, I feel like that's like the apex of what we see his Force capabilities as, and it's used in the first scene, and it's like everything after that is just kind of like, oh yeah, like he's pretty good with the Force. And so one issue that I have too with it is the lightsaber battles, and Finn is mixed up in it and kind of holding his own, but not really with Kylo. But then
Rey's like messing him up.
I know. I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, did Kylo Ren only like practice using the Force? Like, did he not even touch his lightsaber over the last like 4 or 5 years or whatever? So that kind of bothered me too. And that's kind of one of the things that really gets Jason and I is like, we're so analytical, which is one of the reasons why we like Thrawn so much, but we're so analytical and we're constantly thinking of like, okay, what impact does that have on big picture Star Wars, or like how would that happen in the Star Wars universe? So it just didn't make sense, like for those scenes and for like the way that the lightsaber battles went down and stuff. It was just, I don't know. It was for the sake of good cinematography, and it just killed areas of the plot.
Dude, for sure. And there's this concept that becomes a big problem in the sequel trilogy, where it's like the need to build on previous Star Wars scenes by just making them more extravagant. So this Force use thing is a great example, because like there's a moment in Empire Strikes Back where Han Solo draws his blaster and fires at Darth Vader. And Darth Vader just reaches out and absorbs the bolt into his hand. Yeah. Presumably because he has a robot hand. And so, like, this is literally arguably the most powerful Sith Lord of all time, because you factor in that he's the chosen one. Like, he theoretically should have been able to do what Ben Solo did and just stop the lightsaber bolt from destroying his hand or doing damage to his hand. Because you literally see it burn a hole in his hand. And, like, or stop at his hand. So, like, it doesn't really, it's just that concept where it's like, we need to be more extravagant. We need to do something even more wild. Right. We need to do something even more. It's like, okay, we're going to have this massive fleet show up in Rise of Skywalker. It's going to literally be, what if it was 10,000 ships instead of 1,000 ships? Like, it's that specific concept is what plagues this sequel trilogy. It's a Marvel-esque need to go for visual splendor rather than quality storytelling, which Star Wars has always been. George Lucas pulled off one of the greatest and most successful movies of all time with literally like 6 TIE fighters. Right. And 12 X-Wings. Yeah. And 6, whatever it was, not even like literally, like, he didn't need the extravagance. Right. It was the storytelling. No. Like, it blows my mind how frequently that gets lost in all of this.
And how often companies go for that. Like, it just blows my mind. Like it is obvious that Star Wars fans want good storytelling. Like, yeah, like the visual aspects are really cool, but you know what's also really cool? Seeing a Star Destroyer in the middle of space. Like that does it for me. Like, that's cool. That's really cool.
I love that about this Thrawn book, by the way. Like the how ominous they make the Chimera appear. Like, like, see if anybody's ever seen a Star Destroyer before. Remember when a Star Destroyer used to be like the thing? Now it's like there was a Super Star Destroyer, and then the Death Star, and then the this, and then the that, and then the this, and then the that. And it's like, it's just like, dude, like, no, there's a simplicity to the Star Destroyer. It's a dagger-shaped capital ship that does not have a ton of dimension or stuff to it. It's just a really cool looking ominous ship that represents the Empire's power. Right.
And it's massive, and it doesn't need to be more massive. Like, they're hugely massive, and we don't need bigger things in Star Wars. Like, Star Wars, the scale of Star Wars is already so insane. We don't need Star Wars to be bigger scale. Like, we just don't. Like, it's so unnecessary, which is completely highlighted in the last movie. But we won't go there.
100% agree. Anything else from The Force Awakens that you wanted to touch on?
No, that's it.
All right. That is all we have for today, guys. We both started the 3rd book, so plan on next Wednesday. We're planning on doing this with book 2. We just never got to it because we had something pop up last Wednesday. But next Wednesday, we'll just do a show where we cover what we've learned so far from the 3rd book. As always, we appreciate your guys' support, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot.